What's good, bro? You still hopping on?
Yes, sir. Logging in right now.
All right, bet.
I'll be in 2 seconds. Yep.
All right.
All right.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on, everybody? What we got in here?
Oh no, man. How y'all fellas doing?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm
all
good.
right.
Yeah. We're gonna wait till some more people get in before we get started.
Sounds good.
How your day going? Any leads over there?
Yeah, man. I'm actually working a really good one right now. Deceased owner, mobile home on about half an acre. Only surviving heir is the brother. And he's like, oh, I just didn't want to pay the taxes on it. But he was like, if you give me a few grand to pay the taxes, it's all yours. There is $7,500 in taxes owed.
Yeah.
Property ARV is about 90 G's. So we're gonna try to pick it up for 15.
Yeah, this is why this is gonna be a good breakdown.
Yes, sir.
We actually had Ube and his name Javon come on.
Mhm.
And they came down and they, like I told you on the podcast, they spoke very highly of you. Like everything they learned in terms of reaching out to people and probates and stuff like that, they got from your strategy. So we're getting it from the source today. So
Yes, sir. Look forward to it, man. Appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah. And they did really good. I like, it actually kind of had me, switching things up a little bit on my end.
Yeah,
But we'll talk more about it once we get started.
for sure.
I say we get started, let's say 7:03 to give some people some time to join.
That sounds good.
How's everybody else day going?
Everybody's hiding, man. Turn your cameras
wait.
on, man.
Man, I thought I was muted. Everything is going well. I am excited to see what you gentlemen have to say tonight, for sure.
Appreciate that.
We look forward to bringing you the value tonight.
Yep,
I
looking
look
forward
forward
to
to taking notes on it.
Looking forward to it as I'm in Texas, so definitely looking forward to it.
Awesome. What part of Texas you in?
North Fort Worth, Hazlet, Texas, about 12 minutes from the Texas Motor Speedway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You right next to the Buc-ee's?
Yeah, not that far. Good, right down the road.
For sure. Elijah, how y'all doing out there after the hurricane, man?
We're actually doing pretty good. I know Tampa did get hit really bad, but downtown we're kind of like leveled, so it didn't really hit us per se downtown, like me and Jasmine. But like inside Tampa, they got it so bad because of the floods. It was heavy wind though. I was kind of scared. I ain't gonna lie. I'm like, damn.
You're like, I hope this high rise is retrofitted, man. Start feeling the sway coming in.
I wasn't even here.
Oh, no? You got out of town?
After the last hurricane, people left their balcony furniture. So that whole night, I'm hearing it bang against the balcony, the window. It was it was annoying. So I'm like, let me go more inland. And then they said we had to evacuate too. So
yeah, for sure.
Got up out of here.
Oh, I'm glad you're all good, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
What's up, y'all? Good evening. How y'all doing?
It's good.
Pretty good. How are you?
Well.
Oh man. Let me announce it. They probably in the Thursday call. That's what it is.
Fade, I realized that I need to grow long hair so I can stunt.
What's good, Brandon?
Yo, it's good, though.
All right. So tonight we got my guy Waleed. We just did a podcast actually last week or 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and it was a really good podcast. He was breaking down his how he got started and also how he's strategizing and closing these deals. So starting off, if you could just introduce yourself and then how you got started into land.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So my name is Waleed Assad. I'm originally from San Francisco, California. I now live in Dallas, Texas. Do most of my investing in Texas. Um, I got started wholesaling land in 2021, and kind of wasn't by choice. I was in the trucking business before. Trucking business went bad. I started it at the beginning of 2020, and then COVID hit. So took some L's throughout 2020 and was losing all of my capital. And I was like, man, I got to figure out a way to make some money without having too much money. So I stumbled across wholesaling, and I just spent the last few months that I was operating my trucking business. I was going from Dallas to California pretty often. So I was spending that time just listening to podcasts, just, soaking in as much game, as much information as I can. If you guys wouldn't mind muting your mics. We got Marco and Cheryl.
I just muted everybody. So Waleed, if you could unmute your mic, you'll be good.
Perfect. Cool, man. So yeah, kind of stumbled across wholesaling through YouTube, just soaked in all the game I can off of YouTube and just kind of made the decision to dive in. And that was at the top of 2021. And I had a meeting with my cousin who was in the car business at the time. And he knew that I was, in the trucking business. And he was like, hey man, would you transport some cars for me? And I was like, you know what? I'm actually getting out of the business. And he was like, what are you getting into next? I was like, wholesaling real estate. And he was like, damn, I was actually looking into that too. So then he connected me with Malik Vaughn, which I think I just saw Malik's in here. Shout out Malik. Connected me with Malik Vaughn, and we were just Malik gave me some tips, some information that he had on the industry. He was in it for a little bit at the time. And just through mutual people, found my ways into land. I initially started out wholesaling houses. Took me about 6 or 7 months to get my first deal. Thousands of phone calls, a lot of money in marketing, going to meet with sellers in person, not knowing what I was doing or what to say, didn't know what a warranty deed was, didn't know any of that stuff. And I stood tall through it, woke up every day and did the same thing every single day until something cracked. And now I specialize in very messy title land deals. And for people that don't know what messy title land deals is, it's pretty much anything from deceased owners to unclear heirship to back taxes to liens, judgments, or all of the above combined. For us, the bigger the problem, the bigger the profits. So we look for properties with a whole lot of problems that they have going on, and if it's something that I think that I could resolve, then we dive deeper into it. And typically 95% of the properties that I purchased, the owner on title is deceased. So we're having to go to the heirs. To be fair, for everybody that's in Texas, we are an affidavit state. So we can go around the probate process. I know you guys in Florida, you kind of have to go through the probate process. So the strategy could work. My strategy works the same way, whether you're in a probate state or affidavit state. The only difference is obviously the process itself. So if you're in a probate state, you guys got to go through your attorney and go through probate. If you can't afford to do one, find an attorney that can bill it to escrow for you. If you're in Texas, you're in luck because, we could just go through the affidavit of heirship. The only requirement is the person has to be deceased for at least 30 days. So
what made you do this strategy in terms of, reaching out to messy title work compared to, just text blasting, to everybody with vacant land?
budget. So, for most people starting out, you don't have a big budget to work with, right? So when you're diving into these markets where, you're in a major city or nearby a major city, you're competing with companies that are spending a lot of money in marketing dollars, right? They might be spending $50, $100, $200,000 a month in marketing, and they got people that are dialing out to these same exact people that you're calling out to. So you're able to scoop up some deals. Obviously, if you're at it long enough and you're really good over the phone, you could pick up some deals, but you're going to spend a lot more money on the data side of things, and your cost to contract is going to be a lot more. Excuse me. In my situation, we're targeting essentially people that haven't been talked to ever, right? So for every property that I'm able to underwrite and I see that, hey, there's an opportunity here, and a few things that we're looking for is, did this deceased owner have children? Did they have were they married? Like, do they have anybody that could acquire this property? And contrary to what a lot of people believe, not everybody has somebody that can inherit their property. So I come across land all day, and I just literally can't find any relatives to this person, right? So the few things that we're looking for is, do they have any relatives that would inherit the property? Does the amount that we can pay for the property exceed the back taxes, the liens, the judgments against the property? If those two things are yes, then we go to the initial step of even trying to make contact. So I try to look for those things before I even reach out to an heir.
So can you do me a favor?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make you the host.
Yeah,
You break down a deal
for sure.
and what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting, right? You're reaching out to people, the heirs of people that passed away.
Right.
How is that first initial, like for your filters, for example?
Mm-hmm.
Are you filtering
So
for that?
no, what we're doing a lot of this manually. So what we're doing is we pull the tax delinquent list from whatever county we're targeting, right? Once I get that tax delinquent list, I'm putting that tax delinquent list through REI Sift, which is a data management software, and it cleans up all the data that can't be skip traced, essentially. So if you see a property that says like JL Ulrich, right? If you run that through a skip tracer, it's probably not going to pop up anything because there isn't a full first name and a full last name, right? So
I just requested to record. I don't know why that wasn't on.
no worries. So yeah, we run it through REI Sift. We clean up all the data. All the clean data that can be skip traced gets skip traced, right? And we typically use Skip Genie for our skip tracing. The reason why we use Skip Genie is because Skip Genie tells us which of the property owners are deceased, right? So once we get our skip trace list, we know which one. We filter out the ones that are living and the ones that are deceased. The ones that are living obviously get sent to the dialer for broad marketing, and the ones that are deceased is our bread and butter, right? Because if they're deceased, that means they've never been talked to for the property. You can't buy a property from a dead person, right?
Yeah.
So once we have that data, we go in there individually and we check the property to make sure it meets the requirements, right? It has like water, sewer, road access. It's not landlocked. Make sure that it's a buildable lot. And then from there, we're diving in to look for the heirs of the property, right? I want to see, okay, this person, I got to confirm that they're deceased, right? Which I already know that because it says, but we just go in there and we look for the obituary. We find the person's obituary. We're reading through that obituary to see who their surviving heirs are.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah,
and, like,
for
break
sure.
it down like that? Because
Yeah,
some of this is visual,
for sure.
I used to use Skip Genie too.
Mm-hmm. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So here's one that we had recently. I'm just going to go in here. So this person was Abernathy Mamie, right?
It's a different name. Abernathy. I never heard of that.
Yeah, this one's.
Is that his last or first?
No, that's his. Abernathy. No, that's the last name. Abernathy. All right. So where's she at? All right. So here's her property here, right? We got Meme Abernathy or Abernathy. All right. And Etol. So here I'm looking at the property to see, one, is it buildable? I know for this area, yes, it is, based off of the square footage. Looking to see the value of the land, right? And
Where
with this
is this?
person, what's that?
Not not to slow you down, but
Mhm.
where is this? This is in Dallas?
This is Dallas, yeah. So this is I utilize the county appraisal district pretty much all the time. And the county appraisal district is usually your best friend. Now it's structured a little bit different, and in some counties it's more user friendly than others, but you get a lot of the information that you need off of
How,
the CAD.
how big does a lot have to be to build in Dallas?
Dallas is 4,000 square feet.
Okay.
Um, there's other areas, so I'm in a lot of the secondary markets. So I'm in markets just outside of Dallas, because again, major cities are a lot more competitive, but we still do deals within Dallas every now and then. But I look for secondary markets. So for us, a secondary market's anywhere 45 to 90 minutes outside of a major city with growth and development going on. So you could find that information by, finding an area just outside of a major city and just go look how many new builds sold within, the last 30 days, 90 days, and you can figure it out. So I'll get to how I find my areas in just a second, but I want to break this down really quick. So remember, I already skip traced this lady and I saw that she was deceased, right? So I need to find some information on her. So I use archives.com, right? We're going to type in her name here, Mamie Abernathy.
And this is to find out.
So I'm trying to find children. I'm trying to find out if she was married. I'm looking for obituary. I'm looking for everything on her.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is good for us Florida people for probates too.
Yeah, same exact thing. The only difference is in Texas, we can do the affidavits. So you want to match the profile. Usually you'll be able to find like an address or something. So you know that it's the same exact person, but she has a very unique name. So I'm pretty sure it's her. But go ahead.
Quick question.
Yeah.
When you say affidavit, because a lot of us is at different levels in this group right now. So can you explain what an affidavit is?
Yeah, so affidavit is essentially, it's a questionnaire, right? And this questionnaire they're going to ask information on a person's marriages, prior marriages, who their children are, who their family is, and pretty much all the information on a deceased person. This is used in the event that somebody dies without a will, right? In the state of Texas, if somebody passes away without a will, and even if they pass away with the will, if the will is not probated within 4 years of them passing away, then essentially it's the will is like null and void for the most part. So affidavits are used for people that don't leave behind wills, and when the estate is small enough. So in Texas, if I believe it's under 100, like 80K, we can go through the affidavit. It's a smaller estate, so you could go around the probate process. Now, there is certain times where it is very messy and it makes more sense to just go through the probate process. But personally, we haven't done any of that. So on all the deals that we do, we're usually able to get it done with the affidavit of heirship. So here I got this lady's profile pulled up, right? So the death ones are usually just going to show death certificates, right? But what I'm looking for here is I want to find her children. Now, if I look her up on Skip Genie, so again, I like Skip Genie because it's a single person skip tray, so you don't have to do bulk.
And Skip Genie is a higher level skip trace. So a lot of times what I used to do was when I first started out, I would take it from batch leads. And then after, I do my campaigns with batch leads, I will re-skip trace the people I couldn't contact in Skip Genie to get their number.
There it is. All right. So here I'm just cross-referencing the information. So this lady's 2470 West 5 Mile Parkway. That is her mailing address. So I'm just trying to match it up. So here it is, 2470 West 5 Mile Parkway. All right. So we got the right person. This is her, looks like her married name, Mamie L. McKnight. She was 95 years old. She passed away. So here we're looking for relatives. So I already see that there is a couple people that I could reach out to for this property. All right. So we got one here. And then you just kind of want to use your, your intuition. So like this lady was 95. I'm looking for somebody that's in their 60s, 70s that could be a possible child, right? These two people right here have different last names. So it could be her kids from a prior marriage, or it could just be relatives of some sort. But I'm going to start by reaching out to these two people here. What I'm looking for here on the archives.com is birth certificates. So if we click this one here, and this is the information that you can't find if you just go skip trace a property, right? You're not going to get any of this information. You have to manually go in there and dig for this kind of information, which essentially rules out most of the competition, because if you're competing against companies that are just putting people's information in a dialer and they have some VAs in the Philippines just pounding the phones, who's going in to look for this kind of information? So it gives you a little bit of an edge. So here we have Mamie Mitchell and James Havey Abernathy, right? If we click on this birth certificate right here, we have to go in there and find the names. So we got James Havey Abernathy and Mamie Mitchell right here. So we got the child's name, Arthur Douglas Abernathy. I'm going to go in here to Skip Genie again.
You gotta have patience with this.
Yeah, 100%. Arthur.
But I like it because, especially in Dallas and Texas, you guys could close deals without having to do probate.
Right.
With that whole probate process, sometimes you'll do all this information and you still won't get the deal because you can't reach out to that one person.
Right. And it's good to know this information too. So we have an intestacy chart here in Texas, and I study this chart. I try to know it like the back of my head. So I know whenever I'm looking at a property and I'm underwriting it, I could already get an idea of who we need to reach out to. And that way, when I'm sending this deal to the title company, because what a lot of people don't understand when it comes to land and dealing with title companies, your title company is not your transaction coordinator, right? They're not gonna go in there and do all the legwork and chase down heirs and do all this stuff for you. You have to do that kind of work, right? If you take as much stuff off of the escrow officer's plate, he or she is going to be more inclined to want to work with you, because they're obviously dealing with land typically at a lower price point, right? And if the title company is making their money getting a percentage off of the price point that you're selling at, right? And they have this house that they could transact on that's $1 million, right? And they have no headache. Which one do you think they're going to want to work with? So you have to incentivize it, and you got to show them that you're willing to do all the legwork or help them out with as much as possible. And I do like everything. I've gone to heirs' houses. I've moved couches. I've tracked people down. I've gone to a drug dealer's house. Like, I've done everything under the sun to get a deal done, So if you're not willing to put in that work, then maybe this wouldn't be for you. But anyways, so let me get back to this. We are so back here on the birth certificate. One thing that I'm looking for, if you see this area where it says county code, I want to see which county this person was born in. So it's 057. I'm going to just go here to Google. County code.
Google is your best friend, y'all. And ChatGPT. Please start using that every day. ChatGPT. I use it for everything.
All right. So it's Dallas County. So we got county code 057. So I know that this person was born in Dallas County. Remember, I'm looking for the child that I just found, Arthur Douglas. So we're going to type in his name here on Skip Genie, and I'm going to try to find one nearby. So we got one Arthur D. Abernathy that pops up in all of Texas, right? So that kind of helps narrow things down for me. It's very probable that this is the child of Mamie Abernathy, and that's the property owner. So the good thing is if that's not, we still have multiple other children we could go look for. So here, we just go down the row. Each and every one, we're jotting this down. We're note-taking information on all the heirs. We're trying to get as many phone numbers as possible. and we're going to try to find them on Facebook. We're going to skip trace them. We're going to call their family. We're going to call their friends. We're going to call their teacher from the 3rd grade. We'll call anybody to try to get in touch with somebody that is a decision maker when it comes to this property. And that's essentially as far as it goes for us when it comes to the acquisition side of things. So here we already know that the property qualifies. The only thing that we need is to find a decision maker. Now, when I'm dealing with properties that have multiple heirs associated to the property that inherit the property, I want to try to find kind of like a ringleader of the family, right? Because I don't want to go chase down 25 people. So I try to find somebody. I'll offer them a little bit extra money outside of escrow and just tell them, hey, I'll give you a couple $100, but I need you to get everybody together. I need you to get everybody on board. I need you to get me the times, locations, and everything when people need to sign, because we're going to send out a mobile notary, right? I need you to get all this information for me, and I'll pay you a few $100s outside of escrow to get this done, right? So I take it off of me. I take it off of the title company, right? I give them a responsibility and I give them an incentive. And again, like I said, with these properties, the bigger the problem that I'm solving, the more money I'm going to make. A lot of the times when it comes to land, we try to break it down as much as possible. So in most of the areas that we work, the median income for these areas are $36,000 to $45,000, right? So when somebody has $10,000 or $15,000 in back taxes and liens, that's 25% of their income. Would you take 25% of your income to pay for a piece of dirt that you own with 6 or 7 other family members that you probably haven't talked to in 20 years? You probably wouldn't do it, and no one's going to do it, right? That's how a lot of these these lands end up at tax auctions or just get left behind, and that's also the reason why a lot of people are willing to sell for less, right? It's a lot easier to get a property for 15,000 that's worth 40,000 when you have a bunch of people on there that like just don't want anything to do with it. For them, it's like money out of the sky. Their granddad might have bought it 50 years ago. They didn't know anything about it. For them, it doesn't matter. It's a lot different than a seller who owns the property outright that they purchased themselves and they're looking to either make a profit on or, want to sell it for market value. So it's just, you're dealing with a different type of seller essentially. I'm going to keep going, but I just want to see if anybody has any questions while we're on this topic.
No, this is good. So just a little recap for the people that is just coming in. What he's going over is, let's say you pull a list, you find the area, you like the area, you have a builder for the area, you pull the list, you do the marketing. What he's focusing on is the people that don't come back with a phone number. So in Skip Genie, it shows you if they are deceased. So he's reaching out to those deceased relatives and seeing who's like the leader of the family and working a deal with them. So he's not reaching out to like the whole list. He's hyper focusing on the few people from the deceased.
Right. So like if, for example, if we're skip tracing a list that has 1,000 properties on it, we're probably going to get a like 85% hit on that. And the 15 to 20% that didn't come back with the phone numbers, that's where we focus on. And that's our bread and butter. Because if we didn't get a phone number, no other company got a phone number, right? So that means that it's less likely that somebody took the time to manually go in there and try to find somebody related to this property, skip trace them, and get in contact with them. So that's where we come in. Most of the phone calls that I have when I'm doing, and this method if I didn't mention it, I apologize, but this is called deep prospecting, right? So most of the properties that I acquire from deep prospecting, I'm usually the first person to reach out to these people. So, the conversation is a lot different. It's not like, oh yeah, I would sell. Are you going to give me $10 million? Right. That's probably like a lot of the phone calls that most people experience on the day to day is, people want to sell for either market value or astronomical numbers. In these cases, most of the time, the family really knows the issues at hand. And more times than not, I'll have people that say, hey, somebody actually tried to buy it a couple years ago and they weren't able to get it across the finish line, right? Because it has X, Y, and Z problem. And sometimes it'll be something simple like an affidavit or tracking down a stray wife, like maybe a relative got married and they can't find the widow, because they haven't been in contact. So sometimes it's something super simple. And I'm like, hey, we go in there and we resolve this issue for them, it adds so much value, right? Because they're like, all right, somebody else tried it and they couldn't get it done. If you're able to get it done, we're happy to take whatever you could give us, you know, however much meat is left on the bone for it to make sense for both parties. Any questions?
I have a question. So is Texas is a deed state? Why not just pay the back taxes on the property and wait it out for the time frame that's allotted for Texas?
So, I mean, you could do that, but the reason why we like to do it this way is we essentially are able to put money into the pockets of the family members, and it's just a little bit quicker for us. So, you could do cash for deed, but essentially you're having to wait things out. And just because you buy like one portion of it doesn't mean you're buying out the whole property. If we have 7 heirs and we're able to buy one person's portion, we're just partners now.
Yeah. So on the disposition side, how are you selling your deals?
So I have different ways. A lot of the times, you guys will be surprised. I'll use this for example, but I like to use the county appraisal site. I mean, we usually, you know, we'll JV, we'll find our own buyers, whatever it is. But even on the county appraisal site, I'll go to this county that we do some deals in.
It's crazy because that's like a trend that I'm noticing with you guys with Texas. Yeah, I use the county appraiser site a lot more.
Right. Well, I mean, you could go on PropWire, Propstream. You could pull a list of corporations that, you know, purchased properties recently in that area, but this kind of cuts straight to it. So I'll go in here and I'll just type in builder, right?
Yeah.
And they changed it up a little bit. Let me see. Type in homes. All right. So here it just shows me like a good amount of the homes, companies that own properties in this area, right? So you could type in builder. Sure. I switched up this county appraisal site. But yeah, I mean, that's one way of doing it. Another way is just PropWire. Sure, you guys, I don't know if you guys all use PropWire here, but whatever county you're in, you just say it's Sherman, Texas. We just filter it out. Go here to land. I'm just looking for whoever acquired land within, you know, under a year or so. Owner filters, business, years of ownership, max 1 year. So right here, it gives you a list of every company that's purchased a property within the last year, right? So you go here, you could skip trace them here. What usually I do, because I'm a cheapo and I want to get it the freeway. I'll go here, I'll copy it. I'll just go to open corporates. And you just want to look for the managing member. So here we got Moran Acquisitions. Managing member is Luis Morano. You could go to True People Search or Skip Genie, wherever it is, and just skip the owner of the company's name. It's usually managing member is usually the owner of the company. They're usually the decision maker. So I skip trace them, get their information. Hey, I see that you own a property. Another thing you can do is you could use most county appraisal sites have this GIS map. So let's say I acquired a property on a specific street. I'm going to use the map to find LLCs in the area. I want to see like which companies maybe own property on that same block, you know?
I like that.
So like you could look for, so some of them, actually, let me do this. Let me go to Landglide. Landglide shows the name.
Landglide is free?
Landglide is $10 a month. So it's practically free. We'll just use a random address. And then here you got to go to the side over here to get the satellite. Right. And believe it or not, I've acquired so many deals just literally using the map. You know, I go here, I can see exactly which lots are vacant. I look for properties that say EST, so I know that it's in an estate. So if it says EST, I already know that the person is deceased, like this one right here, Banks Helen Estate, Watson Charles Estate, right? So you could go pull a list, but I mean, I could find a few properties, underwrite them, and make contact with somebody with the same amount of time it takes me to go pull a list, get it skip traced, try to reach out and do all that stuff. But here you'll see.
I have a question.
Yeah.
VP asked the question. She said, what is the easiest way to find out if a land is platted or not?
Usually by the legal description. So let me just type in a random name.
That's a great question, by the way.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So if you go here to the legal description, it's moving a little bit slow. So usually in the legal description, it's going to say, you know, lot 107, block, whatever it is. So usually it has to have a lot and a block for it to be a platted property. I'll try to find another one.
So if it says lot, block, and what?
Just lot and block.
Okay.
So if it has a lot number and a block number, it's platted.
You think that's the same in Florida?
Florida, I don't know. We haven't done any deals out there yet, but I would assume it's probably the same. But I would recommend for anybody to go just check on that.
Micah said, what does platted mean?
Platted means that the property it's legally divided and recognized according to the county. So like this one right here is a platted property. So we got Ridgecrest, block 13, lot 11. This one right here is platted. So another thing I wanted to speak on with everybody is essentially just simplifying things, right? I feel like if everybody could just drop in the chat real quick, is anybody in here that has not done a deal at all? If you haven't done a deal, just put a 0 in the chat. Okay. Gotcha. So yeah, a good amount of people in here haven't done a deal. So, you know, I would say that my greatest asset when I first got into this is not having to have all the answers, right? I feel like a lot of people get caught up in feeling like you need to know every single aspect of the business, every single aspect of the land, every single aspect of everything before, you know, reaching out to anybody. And when you do that, you find yourself in a situation where you have analysis paralysis. I'm sure everybody has heard that term before, but you find yourself learning and acquiring so much information, and you haven't even reached out to anybody. So many people are scared to even get on the phone with the seller, right? Because they don't want to sound dumb. They don't want to say the wrong thing, whatever it is. One thing I could tell you is I've never met anybody that got punched through the phone. Worst case scenario, you say something, you could literally talk in third person and say, hey, I'm a new acquisitions manager at this company. Let me speak with my manager and get back to you. You know, there's nothing wrong with saying that. Pretend you're new at the company and you don't know what you're talking about and you're still in training. And you go put it on somebody else and you go Google it. I would literally put the person on hold and go Google whatever they were asking me. Whenever I was talking to a seller and they would ask me something I didn't know the answer to, I'd put them on hold, go Google the question, and get right back on the phone and give them the answer. So just don't let yourself get too caught up in the nitty gritty. Just like essentially, you know, find ways to strategically find properties. That's one. Right. So like the way that I do it, this is a strategy. I don't spend a lot of money doing this. For a good amount of time before I hired anybody, I was running everything for probably $300 or $400 a month. And that's just like DocuSign, skip tracing, stuff like that. So your marketing spend could be very low if you go about it this way. So it just depends on the strategy that you want to take. Do you want to go broad marketing? where you're spending a lot more money, you have to talk to a lot more people, or do you want to go, deeper, more strategy, and essentially these deals are typically more lucrative if you could figure out how to work them. Another thing is what I was telling you guys earlier about the Texas.
With that deal, how much you made
Which one?
with Abernathy?
Abernathy is one that we're working. I was just showing them the process on how we were getting there. But like the biggest deal that I've ever had was $54,000. And I had two of those. One was by myself. One was a JV actually with Malik. Is Malik still in here?
Malik, you still in here? My boy hiding out here closing 50K deals.
Yeah, he is still in here. So yeah, me and Malik. Malik, you in here?
Yeah, I'm playing basketball while listening.
No, you're good. You're good. Hey, do you remember the 8 acres in Quinlan?
Yeah.
Do you remember how big that deal was?
The spread?
Yeah.
8 acres. I don't actually, bro. I closed so many deals, bro. I don't know.
I remember it was an $80,000 deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was $80,000 deal. It was 8 acres. This one again fit the the profile that we look for. So it had a deceased owner on title, and then it had his wife on title as well. If I remember correct, him and the wife actually got divorced, but they were both still on title. So they had a daughter together. So in Texas, let me pull up this chart really quick so I can break this down for you guys. I like this one. All right. So it's good to know all this information when you're looking at these properties so you could see who would have heirship to it. So community property, for those that don't know, there's community property and separate property. Community property is property that was acquired together with the spouse, and then separate property is property that was acquired before getting married. So in this situation, the guy was deceased. So there was 2 people on title. One was deceased. Ex-wife was living. They had a child together. So the child inherits the father's portion, right? So the mom and the daughter had heirship to the property, were technically the owners. The daughter signed over her rights to the mother, right? And this was a super crazy deal because this lady had essentially forgot about the property. She was like, oh, they had a bunch of taxes on it. There was some liens on it, if I remember correctly. She forgot about the property and she was like, oh yeah, we'd be willing to sell it. We ended up contracting it for $40,000. And while we were in escrow, the lady, I believe, had a stroke and she was like sedated for 2 or 3 weeks. So we thought that we weren't going to be able to get this across the finish line. And I was in communication with the daughter, and the daughter really wanted to get the deal done. And, so I told her, I was like, hey, as soon as your mom wakes up, give me a call. As soon as she's like coherent again, give me a call so we could get a notary over to the hospital. The daughter gave me a call. We got a notary over to the hospital. The mom signed the documents that she needed to, signed all the closing docs. The buyer was actually on a cruise at the time and was like, hey, I need till next week to close. I was like, hey, listen, next week is not going to work. So we ended up getting the buyer to get some Wi-Fi, sign the closing documents, wire over the money, and we ended up closing that deal, had an $80,000 spread. The daughter, the seller, everybody was happy and very appreciative. Again, in this situation, it's like if we don't come into the picture sometimes, these properties end up going to the tax auction. So the families don't get anything out of it. So it's a value add. When you're able to come in there and resolve somebody's issues, put something in their pocket, you get it at a really good price and you put money in your pocket, and it's a win-win for everybody. And the city even loves you because we're getting money. We're getting the back taxes and the liens paid, right? So a lot of the times on these properties that, on these vacant lots that we're acquiring, they have liens through the roof. And in Texas, whenever a lien is placed on a property, it accrues a 10% interest rate per year that is delinquent, right? So initially when we first started doing this, I was finding that a lot of the properties, because of the lien amount and the interest, it was exceeding what we could pay for the property. So I was like, all right, it's not going to work. I had so many deals that we were in escrow on, and we got the payoff on it, and we were like, okay, like there's no way we could close on this property because of the liens, right? And then I was like, you know what? A closed mouth does not get fed. So I would reach out to the city and I would explain to them the situation. I said, hey, the seller's in a pinch. We're trying to get you guys paid essentially and put some money in their pocket so they could go invest it into another property. Is there any chance you guys could waive the liens for us? And they started doing that. So they would waive all the, not the liens, but waive the interest on the liens. And sometimes the interest exceeds what the lien is, right? So they would waive all the interest on the liens for us. And sometimes that's a difference of $5, $10, $15, $20,000. And now it went from no deal to a deal, right? But again, it's if you're not doing these kind of things where you're not reaching out and asking the simple question, that me asking that simple question was a difference of whether we're going to be able to do close these transactions or not, you know. And that's I feel like the missing part for some people. It's a lot of whenever people are getting into this business, they're locking up the property, you know, they'll put it in escrow, and then it's kind of like a set and forget. You know, you can't just you gotta, you know, cherish this deal, right? You know, like this is a lot of money and you're able to do this virtually. You don't have to like go meet anybody, you don't got to shake anybody's hand. So you got to be appreciative of the fact that you're able to do this. So when you're sending a deal to the title company, make sure that the title company has everything that they need. Make sure that you're staying on top of the escrow officer, because the escrow officer is not going to chase you to close this deal. You got to chase them, right? Make sure you're on their case. Hey, what's going on with this deal? Do you need anything? Is there anything that's stopping this deal? What do we need to make this deal go forward, right? Making sure that you're staying in touch with the seller during that process as well too. Even if you don't have an update for them, reach out to the seller and just say hi and just say, hey, just wanted to let you know things are still moving along, just calling to check on you. And the reason why it's important to do that is sometimes after you contract a property, they're getting other people calling them, right? And if that other person on the phone is a closer and, you know, they're telling them, hey, you know, they get them to like them, whatever it is, you know, they might offer them 50 cents more than you did, and they're going to go ahead and contract with them. Right. So you want to make sure that you're maintaining that rapport with the seller, keeping them up to date on everything that's going on throughout the process, checking in with the title company, you know, every few days to make sure that the deal is moving in the right direction. And you'll find more success with that. And I'm telling you guys that from experience, because when I first got in, I was just, you know, especially dealing with the messy title stuff, I would put it in escrow. And I thought the title company and the escrow officer was just going to take care of everything. And I was wrong, you know, and I was missing out on deals and missing out on money when it comes to that. So
we have another question. What's the difference between a paper lot and a finished lot?
a paper lot and a finished lot, that's a really good question. I don't even know the answer to.
Chat GPT.
Yeah, you got to chat GPT that one.
All right. When calling the county and asking for a land list of tax delinquency, how is determined if the lots are vacant or have a house on it?
So it's based off of the county appraisal district, but if they have like the zoning for it, it'll say like residential vacant land. And if not, what you can do is you could send it. We use a data scientist off of Fiverr. You could send it to data scientist off of Fiverr, and they can extract that information off of the county appraisal district, and then they'll separate it for you based off, you know, whether you want single family houses, residential vacant land, mobile homes, whatever it is. And the conversation when you're reaching out to the county, this is all public information. So the conversation is just going to be like, hey, my name is so-and-so. I was calling to acquire the tax delinquent list for the county. What is required? You know, sometimes they're going to have you send in a check. Sometimes you got to bring a check in person. Sometimes they'll have you pay online. Sometimes they're going to send it to you via email. Sometimes they'll have you send in a hard drive, but the hard drive has to be sealed and a receipt in there because it's going into a government system. So they want to make sure that it's not a used hard drive. So every county is going to vary, but in my experience in Texas, it's usually the county it's very simple. You know, you send in a check. I don't think that I've ever paid more than $40 for the entire county list of delinquent properties.
Right. So a lot of us in Florida, we have a barrier of entry into Texas because of pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you was brand new and you never did Texas before, let's say you was in Florida,
Yeah.
how would you find the pricing for Texas?
I would reverse engineer it. I would find the buyers first, right? So I would look for buyers in the area, and I would reach out to them and say, hey, I'm a land investor looking to bring value to you and your company. I saw that you acquired some land in the area recently. I just wanted to see how much you're paying per lot, per buildable lot. And what's your buy box? What are your requirements? Is there any specific zip codes that you're looking for? So I would reverse engineer it. Also, typically you could go to Zillow and just look for some new builds in the area and just take a percentage off of the new build. So a safe number for me where I never lose money is 10% of whatever the new build's going for. So if the houses in the area are selling for, $500,000, then a safe number for me is 50,000 that I know I could sell it to the buyer for. So anything I get it below that is going to be money in my pocket, right? And a lot of the times, depending on the area and the scarcity of lots for that area, we've sold up to 20% of what houses are selling for. So just take that percentage, and you're not going to lose any money. Also, if you absolutely don't know what to offer, just use the county appraisal site and go half of CAD. Whatever the appraisal is, just offer half, and you won't lose any money.
Facts.
So
I always tell them, if you get it for somewhere around the assessed value, it's most likely a deal.
yeah, not
And-
always, but it depends on the area. The thing is some, with the county appraisal, they're not obviously looking at each individual property. So I've come across properties where the lot, based off of the square footage and everything, it was priced out as the same as a lot that had road access and was not landlocked, right?
Mm.
So, if a property is landlocked and it's appraised for 40K, and then the lot next door that is not landlocked is appraised for 40K, the
Right.
person's not going to pay that same amount of money.
Facts.
But that brings me to something else that I started doing recently. So I never used to target landlocked properties. And a couple months ago, I was just doing my research. I was actually looking at the property next door, and I saw that the lot behind it was deceased owner. So I was like, oh, let me just click on it. Excuse me. Let me click on it and just, do some quick due diligence. So I was like, you know what, let me give this a shot. So this was I believe 1 acre lot, and it was in the back of about 4 or 5 houses, right? So I was like, all right, well, this is adjacent to every one of these, neighbors' backyards. Maybe one of them wanted to add additional space to their property, right? So I just went one by one to each neighbor, and I reached out to them. I was like, hey, this is super random, but we're real estate investors, and I just wanted to see, are you familiar with the vacant lot that's right behind your house? And they're, each one was like, yeah. I was like, hey, just out of curiosity, if I was able to get you this property, is this something you'd want to add to your portfolio? And 2 out of the 5 said yes, right? One of them, the wife called me back within like 10 minutes, and she was like, hey, we have cash. We could close in 3 days. We really want the property. Right. And she was like, but we want to meet you in person, which I never go meet anybody in person. But in this situation, because I know it's a landlocked property that I can't just sell to any builder. Right. It's a very, very specific situation. So I was like, you know what? I'll drive. It was like an hour away. I was like, I'll drive and go meet them. So we go there, we sign the contracts, everything. They go ghost. They don't send in the EMD. They start ghosting me. They start giving me the runaround. She was like, oh, my mom died and this happened and that happened. Just gave me all the runaround. So I went back to the other guy that said that he wanted it, and he had a whole bunch of questions for us. But long story short, this guy ended up sending the EMD. We took a $5,000 earnest money deposit. He sent the EMD. He wanted me to meet him at the title company to sign in person. Even at the title company in front of the escrow officer, he was still skeptical as hell. But he eventually ended up signing it, and we made a $12,000 assignment on the landlocked property that everybody probably overlooked because it was landlocked. So in specific situations, if you find a vacant lot that sits right behind somebody's house, or is adjacent to, like let's say there's a road front property and there is a separate owner of a different property that sits like right behind it. Sometimes it's worth reaching out to the owner that has a road front property and saying, hey, would you want to add this to your portfolio? Because for them, it's additional space and they have road access to it, right? And you'll be surprised. Some people say, yeah, and they want it. So there's 1,000 ways to do it in this industry. I mean, pick what works for you. But if anybody ever needs any help with any, if you come across a property in Texas that's, you're having title issues with and you need any help, I'd be glad to look at that deal for you and help you guys get it across the finish line. Any questions?
Let me see if they have any in the chat.
What title company do you use that works with wholesalers in the Dallas area?
We use a few. There's WFG National Title. We worked with Providence before. I would stay away from Fidelity. Hopefully nobody in here has any relatives that work there, but I had bad experiences with Fidelity. But the main two that we use is WFG National Title and Providence Title. And you just want to, whenever you guys are working with a new title company, just call and kind of vet them out. Make sure that they do double closes. Make sure that they don't have a cap on make sure that they do assignment fees and there is no cap on the assignment fees. And yeah, I'll just, verify that information with them, just because, some title companies work with wholesalers, but if they see the assignment fee is something crazy, then they would say, hey, you need to double close on this property. So then you got to worry. Then you got to figure out how to get funds for the A to B contract. Has anybody in here not familiar with what a double close is?
I'm pretty sure.
Everybody in here knows?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
This is good. I appreciate you, bro. I really do like that. I feel like your strategy is, and don't take this the wrong way, is very boring.
Oh, 100%. I hate it.
Because I used to do this in 2021. Same thing,
Mhm.
skip Genie. And
Mhm.
what I used to do, I used to direct mail those people that didn't come back.
Yeah.
And that used to be my direct mail campaign. So I would actually save a lot of money because, I'm not sending it to the whole list.
Right.
But I like how you're basically going the extra mile
Mhm.
for the little bit that comes back, and you're hyper focusing on them. And usually those are the bigger deals because nobody else is contacting them.
Right.
Nobody else is putting the time in to get everybody on the same page. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, for me, it's like everybody has different strategies, but I rather do like one deal that pays 50 G's than to do 10 deals that pay 5, I mean, they both require a lot of work, but one is just like you're dealing with one transaction, typically, a few sellers, whatever it is, less fall through rate, so everybody got their different strategy. But
yeah.
if for anybody that's getting in to this industry, the thing is like once you're already established, you can afford to spend the money and do the mass marketing and be competitive, right? But when you're bootstrapping, when you're first starting and you might be working with a couple grand, you gotta, sometimes it's luck involved that gets you that first deal, but you got to be able to spend that money to market to these people, to get these deals. So the way that I'm doing it is kind of like you could essentially come in with absolutely not a penny to your name and still get a deal. And it could be a very lucrative deal. So
It's going to take time, but it's going to be worth it because how I think about it is, with this, we hunting. So
yeah.
you find that deal could be that 40, 50K,
Mhm. Yeah.
that
I
could
mean,
definitely change your life.
and just for example, like we have one, as soon as I get off of this call, I gotta get on with the seller again. But I was telling you a little bit about it when we first got on the call. This guy, the owner of this property, is deceased, was not married, does not have children. His parents have passed away. The only surviving heir is his brother, right? They owe $7,500 in back taxes on this property. Okay. The brother was like, oh yeah, I was just going to let it go to the tax auction because I didn't want to pay the back taxes. But if there's some money to be made, then, you could give me a few grand and we could make something happen. Right. In this situation, the back taxes are $7,500. The brother is looking for a few $1,000s. Let's say I give him 5, right? I'm in this property 12.5. The ARV on this property is between $80,000 and $90,000.
Sheesh.
Right. So how many calls? It literally took, my VA made one phone call to, she went in and looked for the heirs, made one phone call to the brother, and I got on the second call, but it took us a total of 2 calls right? And we're potentially going to have a $60,000 spread on this deal.
Wow.
So again, then those aren't, those, I'm not going to tell you guys that we come across those every single day, but if you go looking, you will find, right? It takes the same amount of energy and effort to process a $3,000 deal or a $300,000 deal, right? So where do you want to shift your efforts?
I like it, bro. I like it. I like it. I appreciate you. Does
Yep.
anybody got any last questions before we wrap this up?
Yeah, Waleed, how do we get in touch with you if we want to have you review one of our deals?
You could go ahead and message me on Instagram. It's at Waleed S. Assad. I'll go ahead and drop it in the chat for you. You could also email me if you're sending me over anything about a deal. So for questions, you could go ahead and
What
DM me.
markets you in, bro?
I'm in mainly Texas now. We actually just dived into North Carolina today, and we're working 3 deals out in North Carolina right now. So, but mainly in Texas, North Texas, just outside of Dallas. So we're in secondary markets outside of Dallas, and we're also in a couple markets just outside of Houston.
Yeah. That's what's up, bro.
Yeah, I try to like find one county and just pillage through there. I just want to get as many deals as I can in that one county because it's a lot easier once you know the county, you know who to reach out to for the city. This is another thing that it just kind of came to mind. Whenever you guys are dealing with buyers, and once you get a property under contract, it takes 5 minutes to do so, but it minimizes the inspection period for your buyer. I always reach out to the city, planning and zoning, and I just send them the parcel. I say, hey, we're under contract to purchase this property. I just want to see if there's anything that would interfere with building on this lot, And sometimes they'll tell you like, yeah, there's, X, Y, and Z, or there might be something going through the property. Or they'll tell you, no, I don't see anything that would interfere in your ability to build on this lot. And then I confirm the utilities on the property, see exactly where the water lines are, where the sewer lines are. Once you send that information to a buyer, right, it minimizes the amount of time that they need to go in and do those kind of inspections, right? So you could get your answer a lot quicker. For them, it's like, I found that when I do that, I'm able to get an answer out of the buyer right away. Sometimes buyers will be like, oh, let me check it out on Monday, and you call them on a Wednesday. You're like, oh man, I'm trying to sell this today, So taking that extra step essentially gets you the quicker answer from the buyer sometimes, and get your property sold quicker.
That's dope. That's dope.
And my apologies to everybody. I don't do a lot of speaking events and stuff, so I know it's a little bit everywhere right now. So I hope that I brought you guys some value today, and I hope that you guys, have some actionable steps, actionable takeaways from this call.
This was good. Because I've been telling, especially my mentees, we need to start hyper focusing, because everybody's texting, everybody is cold calling.
Mm-hmm.
Some are doing direct mail, some are even doing all 3.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're able to reach those people that nobody else could reach, you're gonna win in this game.
Yeah.
Because that's where the money really, really is. Like
Yeah.
you could make some money just doing the outreach, but when you could reach those people that nobody else could reach, that's when you're gonna, excel.
100%. And like I said, the conversations are just way different. It's more like, the conversation feels more like, hey, you're actually reaching out to help me rather than, hey, you're trying to steal my property,
Right.
So yeah, definitely. And yeah, like I said, if anybody has any questions, if you have a deal you want me to look at, you run into any title issues, feel free to send it to my email. If you have any, simple questions, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. And yeah, I hope everybody got some value out of this call. Elijah, my boy, I appreciate you having me on here. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. And where we at? This is Thursday. So, we got another week, another day for the end of the week. So my builder is still looking in Palm Bay, y'all. We got 15K actually, probably with one of you guys that we assigned today. So he's still looking for a couple more. Let's fill up that pipeline. Let's get a couple of you guys first deal, So just stay consistent, keep at it, and then we back at it on Monday for the mindset call. So I'm gonna holla at y'all.
Sounds good. Thank you guys.